Hello, this is a review video for the first exam for Programming 2, and this video is primarily going to focus on pointers and just how they're used. So, to define a pointer is a variable that stores a memory address of another variable as its value. A pointer variable points to a data type of the same type, such as an integer or string. Here's kind of a visual representation of a pointer being used. So here you see there's a variable. A variable has its own value and its own memory address, and then if you create a pointer, it can take the memory address of this variable and set the memory address as its own value. And here's kind of an example. So I have the English statement that kind of just says, like, if you wanted to translate to English, it's kind of easy to understand. Basically, here we have an integer called x, and it's set to 10. So the value of this variable x is 10. And then down here you can see we're basically taking an integer pointer. So to set a pointer, you use an asterisk, and this basically says we have an integer pointer and it's named PTR. So the pointer is named PTR and it is set to the memory address. To take the memory address, you have to use the ampersand sign, and then in front of x, that means that we're taking the memory address of x. So this whole statement right here basically says we have an integer pointer named PTR and it is set to the memory address of x. So it's taking the memory address of this x and setting it to the pointer's value. Here we kind of have a visualization of that example. So integer x is set to 10, so 10 is its value, and here's its memory address. And this pointer, PTR, is taking int x's memory address and setting it as its own value. So here, another important topic is dereferencing a pointer. This is done to access the value stored at the memory address that a pointer is pointing to. So basically, it's taking the actual data rather than just the memory location. It accesses the actual data that's stored there, and allows you to work with that. And this is done by, again, just putting an asterisk before PTR or whatever the pointer is called. So now I'm going to go over an exam review problem that kind of takes all of those and implements them into a coding question. So here we can see step 1, create a function named changeInt, and it takes 2 parameters. So there's going to be in parentheses. The first parameter is an int pointer, so int asterisk to make it a pointer, named PTR, and then comma to separate from the next parameter, which it says it wants an int named wanted. So just int space wanted, all in parentheses. Then open the brackets and we look at step 2 to see what the function does. It says if PTR is a null pointer, then immediately return false. So this is important. Now we can see that this function is obviously returning true or false, which means the return type is going to be bool. So yeah, if pointer, so now we're going to use an if statement in parentheses, PTR is equal to null pointer, then open up more brackets, and then it says it wants us to return false, semicolon. So that's step 1. Then we look at step 2, otherwise update the integer stored at PTR. So that's like we talked about in the last slide. It wants us to update the integer stored at PTR, not just the memory address, but the actual data stored there. So to do that, we're going to have to dereference the pointer, which is done by asterisk PTR, and then set it to wanted, semicolon, and then it says return true, there's a semicolon, and then the test cases should pass. I think the professor said to do one test case at a time, or one check at a time, but so they both passed. So yeah, that was just a simple implementation of the use of pointers. Thank you for watching.